Hi, I'm Johnny, this is Comics Altruism, and this is a dual contest entry video. So the first contest is from the Mastodon, and that's _Mastodon. I'm going to leave the links to both of these contests below so you can check them out. They're both very generous. The other contest is Doomsday Comics. I may as well start off with the Mastodon, though, because he's asked us to describe our dream comic creator team for a project that we make up in our own heads. He didn't specify that you have to tell him what your comic book would be, what your final product would be, but he did say it's good for an extra entry, so I'm going to do exactly that. And then he wants us to shout out a YouTube channel under 100 subscribers, I think. But either way, I've chosen an under 100 subscriber channel because the Doomsday Comics contest is to shout out 3 channels that have under 100 subscribers. So it's very good for YouTube community building, both of these contests. So the comic I would want to see created, and it would be a long one, it would probably take about 3 years to actually release everything, is I would like to see a Mad Adam trilogy adaptation into comic book form. And as we know, Margaret Atwood has dabbled in comic books in the past. She's got something called Angel Catbird. I still haven't read it, even though I've owned it since it came out. I bought it like right off the shelves. The first one anyway. The second one I waited and I got it for like half the price just because it's a hardcover. Very nice. Anyway, I would have Margaret Atwood as the original writer. She would be more of a consultant to Marguerite Bennett. Marguerite Bennett, if you don't know, she created Animosity, she created Insects, and a bunch of DC stuff. I think a little bit of Marvel stuff in there as well, but either way, she's one of the great writers in comic books currently. She also has like a feminist edge to her, which fits really well with Margaret Atwood, and I think the two of them would get along really well with Marguerite Bennett writing and Margaret Atwood consulting and kind of editing it. I was watching an interview with Margaret Atwood where she described that once you sign over the rights to your work to make it into something like the Handmaid's Tale show, you end up losing all of your creative freedom in that process. So if they screw it up on you, too bad, because you took the money. So she kind of got a little look in her eye when she was saying it too, like maybe she was very disappointed by something that's come out recently, because she's been gaining a lot of heat even though she's 80, 79, which, by the way, we share a birthday, so that really doesn't mean anything. We also share a country of origin. She's Canadian, which brings me to my artist of choice, and that would be Jeff Lemire, who is also from southwestern Ontario. So that's 2 people in the southwestern Ontario region. I just like his kind of gritty watercolor style, and I think that any Margaret Atwood work turned into a comic book requires a unique kind of art. Like, I could put Greg Capullo on it or whoever, Scott Snyder, but it wouldn't have a different tone to it, not to mention the whole Canadian vibe that it's got going on. Mad Adam Trilogy, I strongly suggest reading if you haven't. It takes a while, but Oryx and Crake, the first one, is definitely the one to read. As for lettering, I'd have to choose Crank, just because he did the Rick and Morty run recently, or at least he did the beginning of the Rick and Morty run as far as I read it. I just like his work. I mean, I'm not really like a lettering aficionado or anything, but I know good lettering when I see it, and I've never seen bad lettering, I don't think, except for like those crappy 80s indie titles or whatever, stuff where I could do what they do, so that tells you that it's not that great. As for cover art, this is where I bring in Mike and Laura Allred, because the 2 of them working together, they're a husband-wife team. There's some kind of weird religious thing going on. I think they're Mormons, but Mike and Laura Allred, love their work, especially when they're working together. But Mike and Laura Allred are on the cover work, and as for editor, I gotta choose myself, because I have a very specific vision for what I would want this to be, and I can already kind of see it in my head. It's rattling around in there, and all I gotta do is pluck it out of the air. So I know the content. And I also know that Margaret Atwood would probably be willing to accept whatever criticism I have, or if she doesn't, I'll just say, hey, you sold me the rights. Be just like every other app. Alright, so Mastodon wants us to shout out a channel, and I'll just go right through to the Doomsday, the 3 channels that he wants us to shout out. So I promised Novamad 1966, or I told him that I was going to shout out Flutterby 989, because somehow she's still not above 100 subs, even after Metarog's 1,000 subscriber live stream that he did. So she should be well over 100 by now, especially with the extra content that she's been creating recently and kind of honing in more on comic books than anything. So let's get Flutterby 989 above 100. Alex Big Blue also shouted her out, and so did Simple Simon. So it's got to happen sometime soon. OG Space Buns. I'll leave the links to everybody below because that's a weird spelling. But she is mostly like a makeup artist. She does her makeup, and I feel like she and I could have a really good conversation about mental illness and stigma, because she's very honest about that kind of stuff. She's not shy at all, and neither am I, as some of you might know from a previous couple of videos that I released about that subject. She's also a big presence on Instagram. She does way more Instagram stuff than YouTube stuff, just because it's obviously easier to get to, but she, even with the Instagram videos, she edits them very well and everything. And we recently had a little discourse about Buddhist philosophy, which I thought was really rad. So OG Space Buns. And then I'm also really digging Hillbilly Comics thus far. So there's my 3 for Doomsday, and then I gotta give you one more for the Mastodon, and we'll say Comic Book Sal for that one, because again, somehow he's still below 100, so very easy to push him above that. I'm reserving the last 2 or 3 of the ones that I have listed here on my phone, because Alex Big Blue just released a contest announcement video earlier today, so he wants us to shout out 2 more channels, so I'm gonna wait and do that when I do his video. I think I hit all the necessary conditions and all that stuff, so yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.